Your golf ball is the most technologically advanced, or it's not. Your golf ball is either the most consistent, or it's not. It's the most trusted, or it's not. The fact is, it's either Titleist, the best performing golf ball in the world, or it's not. Prove it for yourself. Titleist, the #1 ball in golf. What will you play?
I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to episode 72 of Playing from the Tips, which is of course our special Open Championship edition of Golf Australia Magazine's preview and tipping podcast. Jimmy Emanuel here in the host chair as we take a deep dive into every element of the 152nd Open Championship at Royal Troon, as well as taking a cursory glance at the LPGA's Dana Open and PGA Tour's Barracuda Championship. Joining me to do so is our pillar of content and mediocre tipping, returning from the bench after a week off, Rod Murray. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I would have picked Ayaka last week too.
I know you would have.
Really
She's
would.
one of your favourites.
Yeah.
And, well, last time you came off a week off, you tipped a winner.
To win, okay.
Okay, so we expect the same.
Let's look for some nuggets today.
Adrian Logue already on the ground in Scotland, gallivanting around and supposedly going to the Open, but actually playing golf. So we brought in a so-called expert who's actually an expert, remarkably overqualified to replace Logue. Yes. He is the senior writer for Australian Golf, that being the PGA of Australia and Golf Australia. Tony Wiebeck. Tone, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Nice to be back. I don't know what it says about my absence from this period in my tipping and what it takes to get back on here more regularly, but I'll do my best to make it worth my while tonight.
It's like the old Evian qualifications, Tony. Nobody knows.
Nobody
knows how you got in the field. You got the letter that you're in the field, so you went.
Yeah, exactly.
No more needs to be said.
You tee it up that week. This is the point of the show where we like to look back and discuss highlights, lowlights of last week. I don't think there's any bigger highlight for everyone in this room or on this Zoom than Steph Kyriakou.
Oh, fabulous performance. I was at Bonneville the year she won as an amateur. Yep. Not a totally dissimilar landscape to what you see at Evian, different sort of golf courses, but no even lies, and she just seemed so at home over the weekend. Yeah, watching her that week, what she showed, I think she'll be a Mickelson-type player. She's not going to be a consistent top 10 performer like Minjee Lee, but when she's good, she's so good, she's going to jump up and grab some. And she clearly didn't feel the pressure. I thought she didn't lose it. She was outplayed in the end. Fabulous performance from her.
Tone, you and I split the coverage. You had the weekend, so you had the exciting part. What did you sort of take away from that week for Steph?
A bit like Rod, I think midway through that last round, sitting up into the late hours on Sunday night, we thought, she was going toe-to-toe with Lauren Coughlin, and you're like, something's going to give here. And, Steph hadn't been in that environment before, so you wouldn't have blamed her if she'd sort of just dropped a couple and faded away a little bit. But it was Coughlin who, I guess, felt the pressure, and Steph rose to it. The fact that she, hit that shot, birdied 15, hit that shot into 16 to take the outright lead, all of a sudden we went from, in 45 minutes, like, this is a really good effort to, oh my God, she might actually win. And as Rod says, it took something pretty remarkable to beat her. And there were a couple of nervy swings maybe in the last two tee shots, but overall, I think she showed she was made for the occasion.
Oh, how good was the putting, Jimmy? How many 4-foot downhill left to right par putts did she make to stay in it? Pardon me, both Saturday and Sunday. That's missing off the tee and that sort of stuff. And with irons, you can work on that, but the putts are what really count. And she is solid in that range. It's the most impressive part of it.
Even like the up and down on two. Yeah. It was so early in the round, but that putt there, Rod, like you say, that was a little, that could have got away from her even and been something horrendous. But to hold that and go forward from there was probably a really good confidence boost.
The other one was Robert McIntyre and Adam Scott. Adam Scott getting done by a ruling, but I think Robert McIntyre probably deserved a bit of good juju after Rory came over the top of him there last year.
Adam Scott might not got out of town if he'd beaten Robert McIntyre at the weekend just quietly.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a great finish, wasn't it? It was a great finish.
Fantastic. And the 3 metal spikes Robert McIntyre has at the front of his shoe saved him.
There
that was
you
good.
go, yeah.
Sergio wins at Valderrama again. That was probably one of the feel-good stories Liv's had.
Yeah.
Sergio probably went over the top with his tweet about it, and Carlos Alcaraz winning Wimbledon and Spain winning the Euros, and Sergio calling it the greatest day in Spanish sport. I think maybe that he didn't play as big a part as he thought, but that's okay.
Though he's chatty, isn't he? He's been chatty lately.
He's been up and about.
Which hasn't been Sergio for a few years. He's been very chatty in the whole thing at the Open qualifying. And to his credit, I've never been a great Sergio fan. That shows great humility to go and try to qualify for the Open. The petulance about the crowd and those things is kind of what you expect from Sergio, but don't take away from the fact that's serious. He doesn't need to go and qualify for the Open. So to do it, 4 marks to him.
Ernie Els wins a senior major at Firestone.
Are we in 2002? What's going on?
It's crazy. And then also worth noting, Nadine Gohl wins the RNA Senior Women's Amateur, first Australian to do so, and Justice Bosio won the Pacific Northwest Golf Association Women's Amateur against Hannah Reeves in a final.
So had you mentioned it, Dean, extraordinary what she's done in this second win amateur career. Genuinely extraordinary. Held every state amateur title in the country. Simultaneously. And I think
the national amateur as well.
Let's just cancel golf for the year because she's done the young Tom Morris. Take the belt and have to get a new one.
Tell you what, we weren't far off the greatest weekend in Australian golf.
It's pretty close. Win a national Open, win a major, and win every amateur event on.
It did happen once on the PGA Tour. The Australians won the main tour, the Champions Tour, and the Corn Ferry Tour. What would have Nike or Hogan Tour would have been. I can't remember what it was, but we're talking late 90s, early 2000s. We had a week where we got the trifecta up. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
And we had Lucas and Mark Leishman get the double DP World Tour and PGA Tour on Australia Day a few years ago too.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Cool.
Finally, on last week, we had 2 top 10s and a whole lot of close calls. Takes us to 15 wins and 93 top 10s for the year, which surely with a tipper who's paying attention, unlike Logue, coming on board, will improve on. But those are, of course, numbers unrivaled by any other golf tipping podcast recorded in St Leonard's and produced by a magazine. There you go. Unbelievable.
Edited by me.
And edited by Rod.
You are never going to get past it. I'll never edit a different podcast.
Yeah,
So
there could other things could change, but that's our rock solid. Let's get into this week's action and the 152nd Open, which returns to Royal Troon for the first time since Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson provided one of the great final days in 2016. Course is a key element of the Open each year, and Rod, you're going to give us the lowdown on Royal Troon.
Yeah, the course is really strong. I think the Open in particular and the bigger events where the courses are something special, they really do form a part of not just the stage, but the player. They're a player in the thing. Troon is certainly in that category. Not considered one of the great links courses. You don't sort of think of Troon and think of, like you do at the old course, the amazing humps and hollows. You have a visual. It doesn't look anything amazing, but it's an extremely good golf course, particularly this sort of level of golf. So first Open they hosted was in 23, so this is going to be its 10th. It's an out and back layout, so you go from the clubhouse out to the 10th tee basically, and then turn around and come all the way back. So what that means is, and this is what Troon's best known for, you're sort of downwind and off the right for the first 6 holes. It turns in a little bit, but that's the basic wind. So make your score, because when you turn around at the loop and start coming back, you're into and off the left with a lot of OB and trouble to the right. So you want to make some birdies on the front because you're going to be spending some bogeys most likely.
That was Elvis Smiley's words to us the other day, wasn't it, Tony? That Clates had sent him videos all about making you score early and then coming in. It's going to get tough and you're going to hit low sweeping ones all day.
Pars are birdies and birdies are unheard of kind of thing. So pretty amazing. The bunkering here is particularly fearsome. They're deep, they're steep. They're always these little tiny pot bunkers. You're never quite comfortable with your stance. But what you really notice about Troon, there's so many of these almost greenside traps that 10 or 15 yards short of the surface. You find those, you might be looking at a 55-yard bunker shot over a steep face to a green that's doing all sorts of things. So we'll see some really interesting shots around that, mostly short grass around the greens, which is great. Then it just sort of feeds off into broken ground where you can kind of get anything. So, look, it's what you'd hope for in links golf. There'll be a lot of ground game golf played. 2 specific holes that get all the attention here. One in particular, obviously, is the 8th, the postage stamp. Those who've played Barnbougle and the little 7th hole there, if you've ever stood on that tee with a wedge in your hand without even a breath of wind and wondered, how are we supposed to get from here into the hole in 3 shots? That's what these people are going to be feeling at the weekend at the postage stamp. High tee, exposed to any wind, tiny, tiny little target, but just diabolical if you miss the green. There's no good misses. There's just you can't miss anywhere good. So we'll see some big numbers there. It's the sort of hole that really can turn a tournament. We could see something there on Sunday that might cost. We could see something there on Saturday. You know, 7s, 8s, double figures have been made on that hole by good players in the past. So that'll obviously be one to watch out for. The one that probably doesn't get as much attention, but I went to Troon in '97 with former editor BJ and the year Justin Leonard won, and we walked out to this part of course. The 11th hole might be the most terrifying golf view I've ever encountered. All I thought when I stood on the tee was, thank goodness I don't have to try and play this because I have no idea what to do. Blind over a sort of a brow of a hill, you can't see any of the fairway. You can see and hear the out-of-bounds train track on the right-hand side. You can feel the wind blowing into you from the left, and you know that any bit of cut spin is going to send it off the rails. Just an incredibly daunting, again, fear-inducing sort of tee shot. And that's not as difficult all the way in, but there's a series of difficult holes playing along that same thing. So, look, Stenson in 2016, probably the most impressive thing. I don't think he was 4 under the last 5 holes on Sunday, which is almost unheard of. I mean, that's equivalent of 6 under par over those holes. So you'd expect that's how it'll play out again. Most of this is going to be weather dependent. If the wind really blows, if you've got a late afternoon tee time and you hit the back 9 just as the wind picks up, you might not be spotted in the top 10 on the leaderboard no matter where you're sitting. So it'll be really entertaining golf. It tests, I think the club motto is as much by skill as by strength. Yep. I think that really stands up. Everything's going to be tested, particularly attitude and patience this week.
Although they do have the longest par 5 in Open Championship history at 6.
600, but it's downwind off the right.
Downwind off the right.
So we'll all be marvelling and no doubt writing columns next week about how the ball needs to be rolled back because guys are hitting it.
Guys are hitting 6 irons.
But look, firm fairways downwind on a links golf course, not beyond realms of possibility at 350, 400 even.
No.
Some of those. There's some interesting burns actually across the course in places where you might see some players think about trying to carry them. So there'll be some really interesting little golf nuggets to look out for this week.
Let me ask the question, guys, kind of with that in mind, Rod, and looking at the history of the winners at Troon, especially recently, that idea of those blind tee shots, and do you like a creative type or do you like someone who's metronomic and just hits it to their spot and kind of doesn't vary too far away from the game plan? Because history recently would tell us that, you know, Justin Leonard, Todd Hamilton, it's
straight,
they're
solid,
not shot shaping kind of type.
No, and you're right. The list of names has more what you might call regular PGA Tour players than sort of greats of the game, the list at Troon. I don't know. I think driving will be incredibly important this week. If you don't find fairways, you will not be able to score. And with the wind and the way the course plays, I mean, I'll tip that. I think I probably ended up tipping Rory based just on that. Can he get far enough out in front based on that advantage to offset some of the other areas of the game where he hasn't been as strong recently necessarily? But I think driving is the absolute key.
I think you're exactly right, Tony. I mean, Americans have kind of dominated there, and they don't typically, apart from Tom Watson, who won one here, they don't typically vibe with links golf as much. But even Stenson's a very much a strategic, metronomic sort of player who just puts it where he needs to put it, puts the next one where he needs to put that one. There's a lot of danger out there, but if you're kind of one of those guys who just hits it into a certain spot, you don't think about the danger as much. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see. First tee is one of the scarier first tees in Open Championship golf. That's enough to get you.
Darren Clark hit a shank. That might have been the second hole. He hit a shank in '97, which he described in the press conference later. Well, it went 180 yards, so it wasn't too bad. It was a quality shank.
When it comes to players to watch, firstly, Brian Harman defends the title he won at Royal Liverpool last year. World number 1 Scotty Scheffler remains a very interesting prospect on links golf and just with his form as well. Rory, you've mentioned, returned last week in Scotland, showed some positive signs after the US Open heartbreak, where Bryson DeChambeau is still riding high on his US Open win. Ludwig Aubert was good in Scotland until the last round. He's getting some last round wobbles at the moment. John Rahm was in form at Valderrama. Colin Morikawa's form is remarkable without a win, and a couple of years ago he showed exactly how to play this sort of golf. And then you got your Xander Schauffele's, Tommy Fleetwood's in some form, and Robert McIntyre, whose press conference was fortunately pushed back from 3 p.m. on Monday till Wednesday because I don't think he would have been in the greatest of form. I don't think he would have been able to drive down to Troon from wherever he was.
Yeah. He may not make his Thursday tee time.
Yeah,
celebrating that he's doing.
I think there's little worry about his performance this week. It's all about last week. So with all that in mind, who do we think is going to win the Claret Jug this week? Tony, we'll go to you first.
That's good because I want to start with Mr. McIntyre because I feel like last week is a release of some sort. I think last year finishing second to Rory at the Scottish Open carries some expectation into the week after of maybe he'll win the Open, maybe this will be the week. I kind of feel like he's playing with house money now. I feel like he can turn up and just play, and the pressure valve has been released in a way. It's not his first win this year. He won a Canadian Open as well, and I think he's gone from 84th in the world to 16 in the space of 10 weeks. So I know it kind of doesn't really go to plan that the winner from the week before wins a major the week after, but I can't see any reason that he won't play well.
It's funny. In some ways, he's ticked off two great career achievements with win a PGA Tour event in Canada, PGA Tour event, which must have been high on his mind, and win your National Open, really high on your mind. Those two things are now done. Does that free him up, as I think what Tony's saying, to just concentrate now on the single goal is now majors?
He could be the anti-Colin Montgomery of Scottish golf.
Could be, yes.
Wins on the PGA Tour, wins the Scottish Open in impressive act, wins a major. He's got a lot about him that's not Colin, which is not necessarily good or bad. I'm not going to say. I have no opinion either way.
No, but at that level, that can be a real difference maker. You're right, Tony. Just a change in mindset. Who knows? I don't think it'll be this week personally, but I wouldn't speak against it necessarily. But
your tip then?
Well, it feels lazy, but I'm going to go with Rory. And I think I don't know if anybody else has seen this as yet. I saw an interview he did with Ewan Murray of The Guardian overnight talking about the US Open. He's very open about it. It's always been Rory. It's what his critics hate about him and always go on about, but I sort of like it. It really did feel to me like he's honestly kind of over that. We remember when Adam Scott tragically lost the 2012 Open at Royal Lytham, and he said at the time we didn't believe him, but this has just strengthened my belief. If I can get to this point and mess it up on the last four holes, well, I can get to this point and I can get it done on the last four holes too, which he went on to do at the Masters the following year. Might be one of those for Rory, perhaps. I don't think he's so wounded that he's not got another major in him.
Yeah,
can he do it from in front?
Well, he'll probably need to.
Yeah, I think he has to. If he's going to win, I think he has to have a bit of a lead going into the back nine.
Agreed.
The demons of everything else is.
Although maybe he's learned. I mean, he's openly admitted he shouldn't have been thinking about what Bryson was doing behind him. He thought about it too much. He's rewatched the coverage and those points, so he would have known what he was thinking at various. I think he'll have learned from it. Look,
I'm thinking back 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you mean? With Cam, I really felt for Rory that way. Again, like Steph Kiriakou, he didn't lose that. He shot the final round that Tiger would have shot in his pick. Except that halfway through the back nine, Tiger would have switched gears, knocked it up a bit, and probably ended up winning by one. But the round Rory played, it's not beyond criticism. There's nothing wrong with it. It wasn't a poor round from the position that he had. He was just sort of outplayed on Sunday by something pretty special. So I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm going to go with Tyrrell Hatton. Nice. Decent form the last couple of months, and he kind of gets under the radar because he plays his golf on live and doesn't get everyone's attention. But more importantly, has 4 top 20s at the Open, including last year, and was T5 at Royal Troon back in 2016. He's won the Alfred Dunhill for fun. Yeah. Like, he just clearly, it's obviously dependent on which version of Tyrrell shows up, but clearly he likes this kind of stuff, and I think if it gets tough even, he likes it around here.
I think he likes it because it allows Tyrrell to be Tyrrell.
Yeah,
he plays his best when he's throwing clubs and swearing at balls and demanding his caddy tell him it's the worst shot that he's ever seen in his life, and that sort of thing. He kind of feeds on that in a way. So you might be right.
Titleist is the #1 ball in golf. Yes, being #1 is a number, and more players trust the Pro V1 or Pro V1X than all other golf balls combined. But being #1 is more than a number. It's a mindset. It's a relentless mission to design and manufacture the best performing golf balls in the game, so you can chase whatever your #1 is. Titleist, the #1 ball in golf.
While we are talking players, the Open has a habit of throwing up the occasional winner. Case in point, Brian Harman, Todd Hamilton, all these ones we've already spoken about, who is a bit of an outside chance. So who do we like as an outside chance? Tony, have you got an outsider?
I'm all about the storylines, and I don't know if there'd be, beyond Michael Hendry, I guess getting the Open start that was denied him last year as he was battling leukemia, that would be the story of the week. But the resurgence of Matteo Manassero, I think, would be quite the storyline if he was to pop up in the top 10 or 15 going into Sunday. And the form's good. He's had a couple of top 10s and he was tied 15th last week. So and he's only 31. Like, he feels like he's been around forever, obviously. But that would be a nice, heartwarming. If he and Michael Hendry finish 1 and 2, that would be the ultimate for the storyline week.
Certainly would
Certainly
be. What
would.
odds would you get on that? Would you need to pick the order? Or just have the top two?
No, box Quinella.
Just box them.
Yeah, box them.
Cost you an extra couple of bucks, but you'll be kicking yourself if you don't do it and the wrong one gets home. You're right. That Michael Hendry, that's a fabulous story. I hope that the Open media people pick up on that and do something on that early in the week, because it's a really, really, really heartwarming story.
Rod, your outsider?
Well, he probably shouldn't be an outsider. I'm going to go with Aaron Ray again. Last few weeks, particularly, he qualified with his finish last week. The last few weeks in particular, he's just been solid as. He's got a pretty good record in the Open. It would certainly be an outsider, but he just keeps bobbing up in the top 4 or 5 on the leaderboard. So, yeah, why not?
If it gets cold, 2 gloves is always
Exactly right.
Exactly right.
That's exactly right.
He might go to 4.
My outsider's maybe verging on the edge of outsider, but as the commissioner, I'm allowed to kind of do what I want.
Understood.
So Heath Thegala might be world number 11, but he's not really bobbed up in a major. He's heading towards regular contender, but he's playing his 3rd Open. He was T4 last week in Scotland. Sort of game that suits Troon, and Americans win here. Yeah. So pretty simple. On to the Aussies, and who better, Tony, to take us through who they are and what they're doing?
Well, it's a mixed bag, I guess, this week of where they've come from and how they got there. So we've got a former champion in Cameron Smith, obviously, who I quite like this week. I think he might be our best hope this week, which may sound pretty obvious coming from a guy that won 2 years ago. But for me, Cam's performance this week is almost like a reignition of what we know he can be. I worry that sometimes with Liv, he doesn't get, the exposure or the spotlight put on him that might bring out his best. So there's been enough good form in majors to suggest that a return to the Open might just ignite what we know Cam can be. And I'd love to see him kind of up there late on Sunday. Jason Day comes in as their highest ranked player. I like the fact that he played Troon back in 2016. Cam didn't. Cam hadn't played an Open by then. So this is his first look at Troon, but Jason was there and finished, I think, top 25. So I think that's a nice thing to have in your back pocket going into this week. Adam Scott, obviously off the back of Scottish Open runner-up. Nice to show a bit of form going in. Minwoo Lee sort of got overshadowed a bit by Cam Davis winning the Rocket Mortgage Classic and having to take 2nd spot. And then we've got Elvis Smiley, who came through Open qualifying to play his first Open, and our Asia-Pacific Amateur champion, Jasper Stubbs.
And we've got Cam Davis sitting nervously as first alternate, but needs fields at 158. They only go to alternates if it goes below 156. So Cam Davis will be walking around casually swinging sand wedges on the practice fairway, hoping to clip a few shins, I think.
Catch an ankle here and
exactly
there.
Speaking of Elvis, Tony did the story for the PGA and Golf Australia sites about Elvis's experience. It's fantastic.
Read it yesterday, and it is indeed fantastic. Well done.
It's Elvis. It's pure Elvis.
It
is exactly what you think Elvis Smiley would be. Yeah. It encapsulates Elvis very well.
When he got through qualifying, I don't know if anybody listens here, there's a UK-based podcast called The Chipping Forecast with Eddie Pepperell and Andrew Cotter and Ian Carter. Ian Carter was there at Open qualifying. He interviewed both Elvis and his mum, Liz, who's a fabulous person, been a guest on the Thing About Golf podcast previously. Fabulous interview. It was just very raw, and she was so emotional, Liz, and Elvis was kind of, this is where I belong. I should be playing in the Open. So really nice story, though. He's a good young man, Elvis.
Liz at Elvis told us we worked out the last event she was there to watch and walk around was the WAPGA in Kalgoorlie, where they had to get a rental car late and they were driving around in one of the great dumps of a ute that was clearly local to the area, and Elvis couldn't drive it because it was a manual. So nice. Liz was, there you are, major Grand Slam champion driving around in a stick shift old ute. That was one of the great things.
In Kalgoorlie. How did it come to this? Yeah. I had promise.
She looked like she'd come in to do her 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off FIFO work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like driving around that ute around Kalgoorlie. It was hilarious.
All right.
He could do something this week.
He could. He got the game for it.
He really does, yeah.
Speaking of who could do something, who's going to be our best Aussie? Rod, I'll go to you first this time. Why not?
I'm going to go with Adam. Cam Smith's probably our best Australian player on the international stage, in all ways. But I think his driving will be a problem this week. I really do. I think it's too narrow. it's too tight. There's too much trouble off the fairways. I just don't think he finds enough. Adam Scott, on the other hand, has predominantly for most of his career been a beautiful driver of the golf, a little bit like Rory, both long and accurate. He's confident. He knows the window's closing. The expectations are less, no doubt, from outside. Now, I can see this being Adam Scott's week, and the fact that he played so well last week, he's a player that'll roll it on. And, I really like the way he looks at the moment.
Tony, your thoughts on a best Aussie?
Yeah, Rob makes a really good point with Cam's driving, but I'm going to stick with him.
He only has to have a good week, doesn't he, Tony? He's only got to have a good week. It's not like he can't find the planet. He's only got to have a good week with the driver, and everything else is there, ready to go. So,
and he finished well last week in Spain. So, I feel like this might have been one that he's had his eye on for a couple of weeks, so if not months. So I'm going to stick with Cam and
yeah. It's one of those things with the driver, and it's the test of last week that we spoke about on this pod last week, that Valderrama might be the most opposite preparation for an Open that you're ever going to get, but it does test your driving. Yeah. And he came out of that pretty well, so I think he's going to be pretty good. But I'm going to go with Adam as well, because last week, experience, why not have a fairy tale? He hit the best driver off the deck I've seen in about 10 years, so that gets my vote.
Beauty, yes.
Anyone who does that, I'm right behind
it. High draw with a modern driver off the deck that's some skill.
Still, my favourite of all Australian driver off the deck story is Mark Leishman telling me once he hits them when he's not swinging it that well to get his golf swing back on track. Wow. And I was like, doesn't it make you feel worse? Like, when you start squirting them out right? He's like, yeah, kind of, but no.
He's not us, is he?
No, he's not.
He's not us.
There is, of course, some other action this week, and we're going to quickly touch on those events. Rod, LPGA rolls from France back to the US, and the Dana Open. You're going to tell us a little bit about it.
Indeed, I am. This used to be known, for those of us of a certain age, as the Jamie Farr Classic.
Yeah.
Jamie Farr being Klinger from MASH. And it's been around. It's been on the schedule since 1989. And it's been played here since, might have been 86, played here since 89. So it's a long history at this Highland Meadow Golf Club in Ohio. Yep. I went and had a look at it on YouTube. They've got a whole flyer of each of the holes and whatnot. It's a really pleasant looking place. It's the sort of place where you could imagine yourself on a Sunday afternoon with half a set, and maybe a mate or kids or wife or girlfriend, whatever it was, just having a late evening stroll around there. It would be a magnificent place. Architecturally, it's not one of the world's great golf courses, but, and we talk about this quite often on here, but Jimmy, this tournament serves a real purpose in this community.
Yep.
It's absolutely an event every year. The LPGA is supported, and they've supported the LPGA, and it's got all of those good vibes that you don't see on TV because we're only interested in watching the golf shots. But all that stuff around it, they get it really right here. So, look, it's the week after a major, so you'd expect some of the big names sitting out, and they are. But I was quite surprised by some of those who will be there. Lynn Grant is defending. She won it last year, obviously, so she's come back to defend. I was really surprised to see both Steph Kiriakou, Hee-Jin Choi and Esther Henselite also teeing up this week. You would have thought any of those could have taken away. They all had their, Steph in particular, they all had their noses in the frame at some point last week. All of them are going to be there. Other Australians in the field, Grace Kim, Horan Naveed, Robin Choi. But here's something interesting, Jimmy. Kari Webb and Suo are both listed in the field as well.
Outstanding.
So big week for Australian women's golf. So, look, it'll be a nice tournament to watch. It's a fabulous example of what it is.
Yep.
It's a weekly scheduled LPGA event in a nice little town that gets behind it, and no doubt every year it's a huge event for all those people. There'll be some good golf, and it'll be a nice it'll be a pleasant thing to watch, I'd imagine, unfold in between bits of the Open.
Absolutely. Do you have a winner?
I do, Hee-Jin Choi.
Nice.
It has to happen for her soon. She must win something. She almost won the US Open in 2017 as an amateur.
Yep.
She's so good, and she looked really good last week. Really good. Sure. I think that'll roll through.
Tony?
I am. There's no reason not to pick Lynn Grant, but I'm going to pick one of the other women that Rod mentioned, in Esther Henselite. Really good finish last week, and looks a bit like Hee-Jin Choi. It just looks like she's due to turn a lot of top tens and good results into a win. So Esther's my choice.
Did she have the world's lowest handicap at one point as an amateur?
I think so, yeah.
Plus 7 or 8 or something amazing in Germany.
This is the point where Logue would get all upset because two people are going to tip the same person, but I don't care. I'm tipping Esther Henselite as well because she's desperate to get a Solheim Cup spot, and that's why she's there. There's no other question. That's why she's there. Played with Gabby Ruffles at the Dow Championship the other day. Just so Aussie connection. I like it.
Nice. Okay.
Good player.
Yeah,
why not?
Really good player.
Yeah. Finally, PGA Tour holds one of its alternate events, the Barracuda Championship, modified stableford format. This one used to be the Reno Tahoe Open, all that sort of stuff. Sponsor watch. Barracuda Networks is the worldwide leader in email protection, application protection, network security, and data protection solutions.
Get them on the phone. We need them here.
We need them here. Yeah, worried about hackers, of course. And, of course, their logo is, kind of a barracuda, the animal, which is kind of like a shark, I think.
I always think of it as the pool cleaner.
I think of it as the pool thing. The thing that goes
the
on the
automatic
bottom.
pool cleaner. That's
The
what the
barracuda.
I could have had 15 guesses at what they did for a business, and I wouldn't have been anywhere near it.
I reckon I've covered quite a few Barracuda championships, and I never had any idea. So I'm quite excited about that. Akshay Bhatia won't defend his title. He's in Scotland. But we've got Aaron Badley, Harrison Endicott, and Jason Scrivener making a rare PGA Tour start. Played at Tahoe Mountain Club's old Greenwood course, lined with pine trees, big bunkers, very Jack Nicklaus-y in all its ways. But its most interesting element is the elevation they play at. So balls going miles and players trying to work out all that on TrackMan and everything at the start of the week. I haven't gone to the lengths of Logue's new segment of Elevation Watch and how many Sahalis this is up because I have a life, and so I didn't do that, but I'm sure he'll come back soon and chastise me for that. But you've got the likes of Joel Damon, Bo Hostler, Martin Laird, Peter Malnati, Keith Mitchell, Patrick Rogers, Camilo Villegas as their sort of headliners, you would call them. Harry Hall, winner of the, which we called last week, ISCO Championship, ISCO Championship, apparently.
Right, so actually sounded out.
Yeah. Well, the TV commentators did, but anyway. But someone's got to follow Harry into the winner's circle, and I think it's Larry Canning's favourite player, Adrianus.
Larry Canning.
Yes. One of the great columns of Larry's that you can find somewhere on the internet, I'm sure.
Does the Stableford format change your thinking with this at all, Jimmy? Does it suit a certain sort of player?
It probably does, but there's not necessarily anyone that stands out because of it. You can look at the thing is you can't really look at past performance in it because if they play well in it, they don't come back.
No, that's right.
So
they move on.
If you're teeing it up in consecutive Barracuda championships, you're not too happy with the state of your game, I've got to tell you. So
I remember Ogilvy won this, I'm going to say 2014, 10 years ago. Yep. And at the time, he wasn't playing particularly well. And he said, his note was, mentally, it was a completely different week because you're not writing down scores, 4s and 5s and 3s as you go. It's just a slight change in mindset. Freed him up, swung it like a genius that week and went out and won it. So who knows, you're right, it's a bit of a crapshoot. Any of these guys are good enough to win this one. It really is a very democratic field. Almost anybody in this field could jump up and win this thing. So,
well, then tell us who it is going to be.
Well, I'll tell you that it's going to be Neil Shipley.
Nice. I like Neil Shipley.
So do I, and I think this format suits him.
Yeah, cool.
He's a bit of a hooligan.
Yep.
This format's a bit hooligan-like. He's on a roll. Everything's going great for him. He's turned pro. He's been playing well. Why not? Just why not? It'd be great to see him jump up. I mean, he'd be a great character to get onto the PGA Tour sooner than later.
And if he wins at a Jack Nicklaus course, that Golden Bear logo on his shirt that's already bigger than any other sponsor might get even bigger. He might go the full stomach one.
Full
I like the idea of that. Tony, your thoughts on this one?
I was impressed, just on logos. I was impressed that someone, I can't remember, it might have been Matt Neesmith on the weekend, was rocking the Great White Shark on the back of his shirt.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
You see it occasionally. John Sendo
used to be one. There's been a couple of Korean players.
I thought I spotted one at the weekend that I thought, I didn't expect to see that in the Scottish Open. So good call. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, but Neil Shipley's like the greatest contradiction in golf to me at the moment. It looks like he should be the guy emulating John Daly, but he's come out of Yale.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't place his personality right now, but I'm kind of going on a bit of form from the year before, which again, you make the point is not great form because you're back again. But Bo Hostler, who Jimmy mentioned, I think sort of suits this kind of event, he'd win when the big guns aren't around. He was playing good at John Deere until he had 76 in the last round. So if he can not have one of those days, then he might have enough birdies to pop up there.
One of my favourite players when he emerged at the US Open at Olympic that Webb Simpson won as an amateur.
2012, yeah.
Big visor, just handsy wedge player. Everything about him looks so cool and just hasn't quite gone on with it.
Was that also the year of Cole Hammer, or was that the following?
No, that was after that. Yeah.
Cole Hammer was the same thing.
Yep.
He's interesting. Is it like there's a lot of players at that level. They are so good. If you saw these guys turn up at your home club, you would never have seen golf like it. But they're just shy of that next tier of not even regular wins like 5 a year, that sort of thing, but of, putting together a career PGA Tour career of 4 or 5 or 6 wins, that is the most competitive part of golf. There's only a very few at the top. They play against each other. There's a big pool underneath that of guys who are just equal, almost equal. So
absolutely. And that will just about do us for episode 72. Tony, thank you for joining us. But before you go, you're about to embark on a once-in-a-lifetime trip as media liaison officer, I think they call you, for the Australian Olympic golf team. What's the experience been like so far, and what are you looking forward to about it?
Well, it won't be work, so don't try and kid us. Doesn't even sound like work.
Well, it's kind of on loan to the AAOC, I think, so it probably is work. They probably make you work.
You might be in for a rude shock.
Yeah, I'm going to start insisting people call me Tony Wiebeck MLO from now on.
Yeah.
I'll never be an OAM, but MLO is as close as I'll get. No, yeah, leave in a week or so. It's been really busy the last couple of weeks in terms of providing some access to our 4 athletes who are going to be taking part, which has been great. A lot of media interest, which has been good, kept me busy. But we get into Versailles for our base next week, and Min will be at the opening ceremony, and then Jason arrive a couple of days after that, and we'll do a bit more media and then get them ready to play some golf and hopefully bring home Australia's first golf medal. A gold one would be great, but
we're a chance.
Any medal will do.
We're a chance.
We're a red hot
really
chance, I think.
Absolutely. Just on a
I
personal
think
note.
Hannah, if you sort of in the 1 out of the 4, I think Hannah's really got her eye on something.
Hannah's
shiny.
She is determined. She's going to win things because she just won't allow her career to end without it happening. She just will not stand for it. She's really, really determined. On a personal note, I think you're quite the sports fan, aren't you, Tony? The golfer side, this must be an enormous thing for you.
Unbelievable, yeah. To think, I only had the thought this morning, like the Boomers were playing the American basketball team. I'm like, that's going to be going on near where I'll be. Yeah. Like, so that kind of just to be in the city when it's going on around us is going to be. Hopefully, I'm not too busy and we might sneak out. The equestrian is nearby, so maybe I'll go watch some eventing and show jumping and God knows what else they do with horses.
That'd be something.
I went to the fencing at the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. That was something.
Put that on your headstone.
I went to the
fencing at the 2000 Olympics.
I had some pretty good 2000 Olympic ones. I was there when Kathy Freeman won and all that sort of stuff as a young boy. So, yeah.
You don't need to be a fan for those.
No, once you're there, it's the whole thing.
You're a swimming expert, you're a running expert, you're a diving expert, you're a gymnastics expert.
I was crying in a Barcelona hostel when Kathy won. So there's there's my Sydney 2000 Olympic. We had an American girl at the hostel as well, insisted on doing sightseeing. We said, we're not going anywhere until this race is finished. So
sounds like the opening of a book, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was crying in it. What was it? Where were you?
A Barcelona hostel.
When Kathy Freeman won gold. There you go. There's your first line.
Speaking of sports and sports writers, I think it's important. Mike Coleman passed away the other day, one of the best sports writers in Australia ever, particularly around the Olympics. But one of my favourite, growing up as a kid, I always read his columns and saw him on every show and everything like that. So,
yeah, and yet all without making himself ever the story or the centre of anything.
Correct.
Proper journo
covering
sport properly.
Yeah. And his phenomenal on the back page for the Mike Gibson back page, Billy Birmingham era is like that was he was phenomenal on that too.
Yeah. And among his favourite journos was everyone here's friend Jim Tucker, because exactly the same thing, just no nonsense, did it all, worked his backside off and did it about everything else.
You hear Jim ask questions at press conferences sometimes and you think to yourself, what is he getting at? You open the paper the next day and you go, now I get it. I don't know how the players must feel sometimes. Left field questions from Jim, but he turns them into great little nuggets.
I watched him turn Adam Scott into a pretzel trying to figure out what his brain was thinking about once in Aussie PGA. Rod, you've been exemplary on return. I don't think you'll be making any Olympic teams anytime soon, though.
Unlikely. I mean, I am jealous. Clates has an Olympic tracksuit.
Yeah.
Clayton has an Olympic tracksuit. So does Marcus Fraser. But I'll give that a pass because Marcus Fraser led after the first round in 2016.
He did.
But Clates has an Olympic tracksuit. So.
Yeah, anyway. You can, of course, follow all the Open action from every angle, including when and where to watch and so much more on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au. And while you're in the golf mood, get out and get a copy of the August issue of the magazine. Great golfing getaways issue. There's Olympic golf content, preview of the AIG Women's Open at the Old Course by Matt Cleary, and Karen Harding does a little look back at the first half of the year in professional golf, which is very interesting. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week on Playing from the Tips.